speaker for the evening, Greg Edmonds with And Then It Rained, and Then It Rained, Greg Edmonds.
The drought is over. The drought is over. Our farmers have been rejoicing the end of the millennium drought for over 12 months. And in the last 2 weeks, the federal government has finally admitted the drought is over. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Toastmaster, the impacts of drought are dramatic in this country. The millennium drought actually had its beginning in Queensland back in the summer of 1991. Would you believe? By 2003, most of Australia was in the grip of drought, and we were facing our worst drought on record since white population in the country, since the records of weather started to be taken in the country. The worst drought on record. Just imagine what was happening in the country. You know, in the city, we were suffering from water restrictions. You know, by the summer of 2009, we were down to 25.8% in our dams. We were at 3A restrictions. We were that close of going to stage 4 water restrictions in Melbourne. So what does that mean? You can't wash a car? I don't wash it anyway. You can't water your garden, you can't water your veggies. People were taking their grey water out and watering their lawns. Big deal. Think about the people in the country. By the summer of 2009, Victorian country towns were on the point of trucking water in because they had no fresh water. Some towns actually were doing it. Some of those smaller communities in the mountains were trucking water in, fresh water, for drinking and washing and what have you. They had stopped dying in the paddocks. Actually, they'd had stopped dying in the paddocks since 2003. Most farmers had destocked by that stage, by 2009. They had planted crop after crop after crop. Hundreds of thousands of dollars invested and saw die in the very paddocks in which they planted. We come to the summer of 2009. One of the hottest summers on record in Victoria. 46-degree days. Culminating in Black Saturday in February of 2009. 100-kilometre-hour northerlies. 46 degrees across the state. The driest, longest drought in our history. The place was a tinderbox, and up it went. 173 lives lost. Over 2,000 homes burnt out. 3,500 structures, farm sheds, hay sheds, shearing sheds. Hundreds and thousands of kilometres of fences ruined in the fires. The community response was immediate. Blaze Aid was formed. We had people from the city flooding into the country, helping farmers to clean up the mess of the burnt out sheds and what have you, helping people pull fences out and rebuilding fences over a prolonged period, nearly 12 months. Blaze Aid alone constructed over 500 kilometres of fence in that year. Doesn't sound a lot, but let me tell you, if you've done any fencing, a kilometre is a long way. Right? It takes quite a lot of work. $353 million raised in support through the fire appeal. You know, today only half of that's been spent. Yeah, it's true. So we come then to the winter of 2010. And then it rained. All of those fences that we put up. It started to rain in September of 2010, and it didn't let up until March 2011. By January, we had floods right across Victoria. Can you imagine being a farmer, walking out your front door, your farm or your property is underwater? You think, beauty. Boy, we needed some rain. Well, yeah, but not all at once. Right. True, it restocked the water supplies or the groundwater supply. And the benefits of those floods would carry on for years to come for the farmers. But when you walk out the front door and you see the damage that it does, tens of kilometres, hundreds of kilometres of fences, either completely covered in canola stubble or wheat stubble, or branches, trees, fences knocked over and flattened. The work, the cost, after they'd already gone through that with the fires, and here they had to front up to it again. It's devastating. And when you talk to these people, they talk about the despair of being overwhelmed by what they have to go through, let alone the financial costs and imposts upon them. Again, the community response in Victoria was fantastic. Volunteers flooded from the city. Blaze Aid stepped in yet again. Not only Blaze Aid, Rotary, CFA, the four-wheel drive clubs of which I'm a part. They all responded to move out into the bush, to provide volunteer labour, to do the jobs the farmers couldn't do. So again, we have 12 months where farmers are recovering, fences are going up. And then in March this year, it rained again. The biggest floods in Victoria's history early this year. Now that's a statement. When you go out to somewhere like Yarrawonga and you start coming down into the state, you go past Tungamar, you go towards Benalla, you go even further underwater. It was a massive amount of territory that went underwater early this year. The damage, again, devastating. There were fences washed away, there was cattle washed away, there was buildings and infrastructure that they had just put up 12 months ago, again, washed away. In Namurka, the hospital was inundated. Do you know since March this year, Namurka has been operating their hospital out of tents in a car park? It was only in the last month the government started to rebuild. So look, it happens. That's the country. I'm a part of Toyota Land Cruiser and a part of their regional response group. What we do is we go into the countryside, and as a club we've actually adopted Tungamar and the surrounding area, surrounding community, and we go in and we help. So we spend at least a weekend a month as a group in the country helping farmers to clean their fences, to do the jobs they can't possibly do. A month ago I was in Tungamar and we went to a dinner dance put on by the locals, celebrating, would you believe it, Year of the Farmer. The irony is particularly poignant. Year of the Farmer. Yet again they're suffering from the issues associated with the flooding. Yet again they're faced with tens of kilometres of fences on their property which have been destroyed, or they're covered in canola stubble or wheat stubble. One of the farmers told me at the dance, he said, you've got to understand, you know, I go out on my own to clear the fence like that. I look back at the end, I go from dawn to dusk, and I look back at the end of the day, and what do I see? A couple of 100 metres of fence cleared. You guys come out here, and in a weekend, you clear 5 kilometres of my boundary fence. Not only that, but you pull out the damaged fence and roll it up ready for me to pick up. Or you pull the fences back up and you help us to put new fences in. He said, you can't believe how helpful that is, because that's work. Clearing those fences is work I can't do. Well, I went back to the pub that evening to watch Collingwood in the preliminary final. We won. I was sitting there having a beer with some of the locals watching Collingwood. And we were chatting about what we do. As a volunteer, we go up there, we have a good time, it's quite social. It's hard work with many hands, makes light work. And it's good fun. You're out in the country with fresh air, enjoying other people's company. He said to me, you don't understand, do you? Is that a rhetorical question? Are you sure? Understand what? He said, you don't understand, you lot. You don't understand the impact you have. He said, following the drought and the fires, and then the flood, and then another flood, this community was in despair. As a community, we were worried about a number of the farmers who we thought might take things into their own hands. Did you know that between 2001 and 2007 there are 110 deaths on farms? 95% of those were men between the ages of 30 and 59. You can understand it when they get so overwhelmed by these natural events. The publican said to me, when you guys come here, you're not only cleaning fences and pulling them up and replacing, damaged infrastructure. What you're doing is you're rebuilding a community. He said, it's the morale that you provide, the lift in morale to the community, to the farmers. You give people hope. I was flabbergasted. I had no idea. He said, we can't count them, but I can tell you, you've saved lives in this community. That was humbling. Let me tell you, volunteering, your effort, your labour to your community, but in particular to the country community, I want to ask you to think about spending some of your time reaching out to our country cousins through Blaze Aid, a club like I'm doing, providing a few hours a year to get out there and work and help these guys cope with some of the disasters that come upon them. Because you too can have an impact on a community the way that I've been fortunate to be involved in over the last 18 months. I really encourage you. Get on the internet, look up Blaze Aid, look up Rotary, look up CF, look up volunteering and give it a go. Because the benefits are not only here, but they're out there as well.